And let's talk about that moment. That moment when everything changes, not outside of you, but inside of you, but inside of you. Because before the world ever sees the shift, you feel it. It's subtle. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with applause. It comes in silence. It comes when you're tired of your own excuses. It comes when you look in the mirror and realize the only thing standing between you and the next level is you. See, people think transformation begins when circumstances improve. It begins when standards improve, the day you decide, I'm done negotiating with my potential. That's the day your life starts responding differently. The moment you decide it's sacred, it's powerful, and it's dangerous. Because once you truly decide, you can't go back to playing small. You can't pretend you don't know what you're capable of. Ignorance is comfortable. Awareness demands action. Most people never reach that moment because they're waiting for permission. They're waiting for someone to tap them on the shoulder and say, it's your turn. But life doesn't work like that. Opportunity doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it whispers, and if you're distracted, if you're passive, you'll miss it. There comes a point where you get tired, not physically tired, but spiritually tired, tired of excuses, tired of saying one day. And that exhaustion becomes fuel. That's when the shift happens. That's when you say, no more, not next month, not next year. Now, decision is not emotion. It's not hype. It's not excitement. Decision is commitment when excitement fades. It's showing up when nobody is watching. It's choosing growth over comfort again and again until it becomes your identity. The most trouble in your house, it is you don't drift into excellence. You decide into it. Think about it. Every habit you have right now started with a decision. Every routine, every standard, whether it built you or broke you, it began because at some point you allowed it. That means you have more power than you think. Listen, build your current reality. Another decision can rebuild it. But here's the truth. When you decide to rise, resistance will meet you. Doubt will show up. Fear will get louder. This is it. Old habits will try to pull you back like gravity, and that's where most people fold. They mistake resistance for a sign to quit. No, resistance is confirmation that you're stepping into new territory. The comfort will remind you how easy it is to stay where you are. But growth doesn't live in comfort. Growth lives in discomfort. Growth lives in stretching. The growth lives in doing what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it. The moment you decide, you draw a line. And that line says, I refuse to go back. You may stumble, you may fall, but you won't retreat. Decision changes how you walk into rooms. It changes how you speak. It changes what you tolerate. Suddenly, things that once felt acceptable start to feel beneath you, not because you're arrogant, but because you've elevated your standards, and standards shape destiny. There's a quote that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You change up in your house. It is a power of decision. You're not waiting for the world to transform. You're transforming your response to it. You stop blaming. You stop explaining. You start executing. Because when a person truly decides, their energy shifts, their focus sharpens, their time becomes valuable. They move with intention, and people can feel it. They may not understand it, but they can feel it. You don't announce a real decision. You embody it and understand this. No one can make this decision for you. Not your family, not your friends, not your mentors. It has to come from within. It has to be personal. It has to hurt a little. It has to matter. When you decide, you close the door to the old version of yourself. You stop entertaining weakness. You stop feeding down. You stop living beneath your potential. You say, from this day forward, I rise. And the world adjusts because the world responds to clarity. It responds to conviction. It responds to conviction. It responds to action. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Been searching for a moment, this is it. Draw the line. Make the choice. Burn the excuses. Step forward even if your voice shakes. Let me tell you something about discipline. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need applause. Discipline is quiet, it's steady. It's the decision you made yesterday showing up today. Not see. Most people build their lives around mood. I'll do it when I feel ready. I'll start when I'm motivated. I'll push harder when the energy is right. But mood is like the weather, it changes without warning. If you build your future on something that's unstable, don't be surprised when your results are unstable too. Feelings are powerful, but they are poor leaders. The bow in your house. It is simple. You cannot wake up every morning and ask yourself how you feel about your goals. Your goals don't care about your feelings. Success doesn't care about your comfort. Growth doesn't ask permission from your emotions. It responds to consistency. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you said you want to be. There will be mornings when the alarm feels heavier than your ambition. There will be days when the gym feels far, when the work feels overwhelming, when quitting feels reasonable. That's the moment that separates the talkers from the doer. That's the moment discipline steps in and says, we're moving anyway. Anybody can work when they're inspired. Anybody can smile when things are going well. Anybody can commit when it's convenient, but can you execute when you're tired? Can you stay focused when nobody's clapping? Can you remain consistent when results are slow? That's discipline. Discipline says I made a promise to myself and I intend to keep it, even if nobody else knows it, even if nobody else understands. Because here's the truth. Your future is watching your daily habits. Every small action is casting a vote. You either vote for the person you want to become or you vote for the person you've always been. There's no neutral ground. The building momentum or building regret. And let's be honest, motivation fades. It's emotional. It's reactive. It spikes when you hear something powerful and dips when life gets heavy. Discipline doesn't spike. Phase. When you choose discipline over mood, you take control back. You stop being a passenger in your own life and start becoming the driver. You don't negotiate with excuses anymore. You don't argue with procrastination. You simply move fast. Some days you'll move fast. Some days you'll move slow. But you move That's how strength is built. That's how confidence grows. Not from talking about what you're going to do, but from doing it repeatedly until it becomes part of who you are. Discipline creates identity. When you consistently show up for yourself, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself, and self-trust is everything. Because once you trust that you'll follow through, doubt loses its grip. You don't hesitate as much. The principle in your house, you don't question yourself as much. You act with certainty. People think discipline is restrictive. They think it limits freedom, but it's the opposite. The discipline creates freedom. Financial freedom comes from disciplined spending. Physical freedom comes from disciplined health habits. Mental peace comes from disciplined thinking. Without discipline, you're at the mercy of impulse. Impulse says, skip it. Discipline says, finish it. Impulse says, it's too hard. Discipline says, get stronger. Impulse says, tomorrow. Discipline says, now. And over time, those small discipline choices compound. They stack. They multiply. So one day you look back and realize you're no longer struggling with the same battles. You're operating at a different level. That's not luck. That's discipline paying interest. There will be seasons where you don't see immediate results. You'll work hard and feel like nothing's changing. That's where most people quit. They confuse silence with failure. But discipline understands something deeper. Progress is often invisible before it's undeniable. Roots grow underground before trees rise above it. If you keep showing up, even when it's boring, even when it's repetitive, even when it feels unnoticed, you are building something unshakable. And understand this, discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. It's you saying, I'm worth the effort. Don't need to be extreme. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Consistency turns average effort into extraordinary the right results. So the next time you don't feel like it, smile, because that's your training ground. That's your opportunity to strengthen the muscle most people neglect. Choose discipline over mood long enough, and your mood will start aligning with your discipline. What once felt hard becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Let's talk about pressure, because the moment you decide and the moment you choose discipline over mood, pressure will introduce itself. It won't ask politely. It won't send a warning. It will show up in the form of obstacles, criticism, delays, setbacks. And most people misread it. They think pressure means they're off track. They think pressure is a sign to slow down. No, pressure is proof that you're being shaped. Nothing valuable is created without it. It becomes strong without fire. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Character doesn't deepen without adversity. You don't discover who you are when life is easy. You don't discover who you are when life is easy. You discover it when life is heavy. Pressure reveals. It reveals your mindset. It reveals whether your decision was emotional or unshakable. Anybody can say they're committed when everything is smooth. But when the storm hits, that's when truth surfaces. You say you want greatness. Greatness is not comfortable. It's forged. Pressure stretches you beyond your current capacity. And strive. Itching is uncomfortable. Growth feels like tearing before it feels like strength. That's why so many people retreat. They experience discomfort and assume something is wrong. But discomfort is often the invitation to expand. But this is the answer. You asked for growth. Pressure is the classroom. You wanted elevation. Pressure is the classroom. You wanted elevation. Pressure is the staircase. The question isn't whether pressure will come. It will. The question is how you will respond when it does. Some people crumble, others crystallize. When you embrace pressure, you stop running from challenges. You lean into them. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this shaping in me? That shift changes everything. Pressure refines focus. When things are easy, distractions multiply. But when you're underweight, you become intentional. You prioritize, you sharpen, you eliminate what doesn't matter. Pressure has a way of burning away the unnecessary. And here's something powerful. Pressure builds endurance. Endurance builds confidence. Confidence builds presence. When you've survived difficult seasons, you walk differently, you speak differently, you carry a quiet certainty that cannot be taught. It can only be earned. There will be moments when you feel stretched thin, moments when quitting whispers softly in your ear, moments when the load feels unfair. That's when why. You remind yourself this is training. Athletes don't curse the weight room. They understand it. They know the weight isn't there to crush them. It's there to condition them. Life works the same way. Pressure strengthens what you refuse to surrender. Life works the same way. It is you quit under pressure, you reinforce weakness. If you stand firm under pressure, you reinforce resilience. And resilience is what separates temporary success from lasting impact. Don't ask for lighter loads. Build stronger backs. You might not see the shaping while it's happening. When you're in the middle of it, it feels chaotic. It feels exhausting. But later, you'll look back and realize those were the defining moments. The nights you pushed through fatigue. The days you chose faith over fear. The times you stood alone but refused to bow. Pressure also exposes what's inside you. If there's doubt, it surfaces. If there's insecurity, it surfaces. That's not to shame you. It's to give you the opportunity to confront it. It is you can't strengthen what you don't acknowledge and understand this. Pressure doesn't last forever. It comes in seasons. But the strength you build in that season stays with you. There's a quote that says, calm seas never made a skilled sailor. Smooth paths don't create sharp minds. Easy winds don't produce death. It's the battles, it's the tension, it's the resistance that carve you into something unbreakable. So when the heat rises, don't panic. When the weight increases, don't fold. Breathe, stand firm. Remind yourself that transformation requires tension. Every level demands a new version of you, and pressure is the bridge between the old version and the upgraded one. You can't become who you're meant to be without shedding who you used to be. And that shedding process, it's uncomfortable. Trouble in your house, it is to be. One day, the very thing that tested you will be the testimony you stand on. The struggle that nearly broke you will be the story that builds someone else. The pressure that felt unbearable will become the proof that you were capable all along. Now, let's deal with something that shows up the moment you start rising, the moment you embrace discipline, the moment you stand tall under pressure. Doubt. Doubt doesn't kick the door down. It slips in quietly. It whispers instead of shouts. It sounds reasonable. It is the principle in your house. Sounds logical. It says things like, are you sure you're ready? Who do you think you are? What if you fail? And if you're not careful, that whisper becomes a wall. Understand this. Doubt is not a sign that you're incapable. It's a sign that you're incapable. It's a sign that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone. Nobody doubts staying average. Nobody questions shrinking about trouble in your house. It is Doubt only gets loud when you attempt something bigger than your current identity. The problem isn't that doubt appears. The problem is when you entertain it, you give it a chair at your table, you let it sit in your mind rent free, you replay it, you analyze it, you feed it, and what you feed grows. You have to learn how to escort doubt out, not by pretending it doesn't exist, not by acting fearless, but by refusing to let it lead. Courage isn't the absence of doubt, it's action in spite of it. There will be days when your past tries to remind you of who you used to be. Mistakes, failures, embarrassments, it's the regrets. Doubt loves to use history as evidence. It says, see, you tried before. But what it doesn't tell you is this: you are not the same person you were then. Growth changes you, experience sharpens you, pain matures you. If you learn from it, it didn't defeat you. Silencing doubt starts with controlling the narrative in your own head, because the loudest voice you hear every day is your own. If your inner voice constantly criticizes you, belittles you, questions you, you will shrink. In your house, it is but if your inner voice challenges you, strengthens you, reminds you of your resilience, you will rise. You must become intentional about your self-talk. When doubt says you're not ready, you respond, I'm prepared enough to begin. When doubt says, what if you fail? You answer, what if I grow? When doubt says they're better than you say, I'm becoming better every day. Doubt, the shift is power. Doubt thrives in comparison. The moment you start measuring your chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 20, insecurity creeps in. But you don't know their setbacks. You're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. But stay in your lane. Focus on your assignment, because purpose is personal. It's not a competition. It's a calling. And let me tell you something else. People will project their doubt onto you. Someone in your house. Sometimes it won't even be your voice. It'll be someone close to you saying, be realistic, play it safe, don't aim too high. Not because they hate you, but because your courage makes them uncomfortable. You cannot allow someone else's limitations to become your ceiling. Respect their opinion, but protect your vision. The world belongs to those who dare to believe before they see evidence. Faith is moving forward without full clarity. Doubt demands proof before action. But if you wait until you feel completely confident, you'll never start. Confidence is built through action, not before it. It is every time you act despite doubt, you weaken its grip. Every time you show up, even when uncertain, you strengthen belief. Confidence is not a personality trait. It's a byproduct of repeated courage. There will be moments when your hands shake, moments when your voice too humble, moments when uncertainty sits heavy on your chest. Move anyway. When uncertainty sits heavy on your chest. Move anyway. But anyway, don't determine it by other people's recognition. Just because they don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not there. Seeds grow underground before anyone sees a harvest. Silence does not mean stagnation. Trust your process. Trust your preparation. Trust your evolution. You've survived things that once felt impossible. You've overcome days you thought would break you. You're still here. That's evidence. That's strength. That's proof that you are capable of more than your doubt wants you to believe. The only voice that should have authority over your destiny is the one that pushes you forward, not the one that pulls you back. So when doubt knocks, don't panic. Acknowledge it, then outwork it. Let me bring you back to something simple, something powerful, something most people overlook because it doesn't look impressive at first. Small steps. We live in a world addicted to big moments, big announcements, big wins, big breakthroughs. But greatness rarely explodes onto the scene. It builds quietly. It stacks patiently. It grows in places nobody claps for. Everybody wants the mountaintop. Few respect the daily climb. You don't wake up one day extraordinary. You wake up one day disciplined enough, consistent enough, focused enough, and suddenly what looked impossible starts looking inevitable. But that inevitability was built on small decisions repeated when no one was watching. A small workout when you didn't feel like it. A small sacrifice instead of instant gratification. A small improvement in how you think, how you seek, how you respond. Where those small steps don't look dramatic, but they compound. There's a principle in life. What you do daily matters more than what you do occasionally. Intensity feels powerful. Consistency is powerful. Intensity might push you for a day. Consistency carries you for years. Some people burn bright for a week and disappear. Others move steadily, quietly, relentlessly, and one day they are unrecognizable. The power of small steps. Think about it like this. If you improve just 1% every day, you won't notice much at first. It won't feel significant. But over time, that 1% becomes transformation. That tiny shift becomes momentum. And most trouble in your house, it is and most people quit because the early stages feel insignificant. They mistake slow progress for no progress. They underestimate the power of repetition. They want overnight results from long-term goals, but the process doesn't rush for your impatience. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. You water it, you protect it, you trust the growth that's happening beneath the surface long before you see it above ground. Your effort works the same way. Those early mornings when you study while others sleep, those late nights refining your craft, those days you choose discipline over distraction. It may not look like much now, but you are building roots, and deep roots support tall trees. The small steps also build confidence. Every time you follow through on a small promise to yourself, you strengthen trust. You prove to yourself that you are reliable. And self-trust is the foundation of bigger victory. You don't jump from 0 to unstoppable. You move from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 10, and suddenly the distance you once feared doesn't intimidate you anymore because you built the muscle gradually. Too many people sabotage themselves by trying to do everything at once. They change every habit overnight. They chase perfection immediately, and when they stumble, they collapse. But real growth is sustainable. It's rhythm. It understands pacing. You don't have to dominate the day. You just have to win it. Win 1 hour, win 1 task, win 1 decision, and then repeat. Over time, those small wins shift your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. The most trouble in your house, it is of the you start seeing yourself as someone who executes, and identity drives behavior. Once you believe you are disciplined, discipline. Once you believe you are focused, you act focused. Small steps reinforce that belief. There's something powerful about showing up every day, even when the progress feels invisible, because consistency builds quiet confidence, and quiet confidence doesn't need validation. You won't always feel dramatic change, but if you look back 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and you've been consistent, you will see growth that shocks you. The most trouble in your house, it is small steps protect you from overwhelm. Instead of staring at the entire mountain, you focus on the next step. Instead of worrying about the whole journey, you commit to the next action. And that's manageable. That's powerful. That big dreams are achieved through small daily discipline. Don't despise humble beginnings. Don't dismiss tiny adjustments. They are shaping you more than you realize. You don't need a giant leap today. You need a step, but one deliberate, focused, intentional step in the direction of who you said you want to become. And tomorrow, another one. Now let's go deeper, because after you've decided, after you've chosen discipline, after you've stood tall under pressure, after you've silenced doubt, after you've committed to small, consistent steps, there's one battlefield left that determines everything: your mind. It's the principle in your house. It is if you don't master your mind, the mind will master you. Everything begins there. Every action, every hesitation, every excuse, every breakthrough, before it shows up in your life, it shows up in your thoughts. And if your thoughts are scattered, negative, unfocused, fearful, your life will reflect that chaos. Your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it grows. If you plant fear, you grow hesitation. If you plant belief, you grow courage. If you constantly feed it negativity, complaints, gossip, distractions, you cannot expect clarity and power to rise from it. You have to guard your mind like it's sacred ground. Be careful what you allow in. Be careful what you listen to repeatedly. Be careful who you surround yourself with. Energy transfers. Mindsets transfer. If you sit long enough in a room full of limitation, you'll start shrinking without realizing it. B, protect your mental environment. There are people who look strong on the outside, but are losing battles internally because they have never learned to discipline their thinking. Thoughts run wild, doubt multiplies, fear expands, and eventually action freezes. There. But when you master your mind, you create internal stability. Circumstances may shift, pressure may rise, but inside, you're anchored. You don't react to everything, you respond. The master in your mind means catching negative thoughts before they build momentum. It means interrupting patterns, the bits that no longer serve you. It means recognizing when your mind starts telling you stories that aren't facts. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. You must challenge your own thoughts. Ask yourself, is this fear real or imagined? Is this limitation proven or assumed? Is this belief empowering me or shrinking me? Awareness is power. Most people operate on autopilot. They think what they've always thought, so they live how they've always lived. But when you become conscious of your mental patterns, you gain control. You begin rewriting the narrative. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, you say, this is building me. Saying, I'm overwhelmed, you say, I'm being stretched. Instead of saying, I'm overwhelmed, you say I'm being stretched. Instead of saying I'm not good enough, you say I'm improving every day. That shift may seem small, but it's transformational. Your mind also determines your focus. And focus is currency. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. If your attention is constantly divided, motive, futures, distractions, comparisons, you dilute your power. A scattered mind produces scattered results, but a focused mind, that's dangerous in the best way. A focused mind locks onto a goal and filters everything else out. It says no to what doesn't align. It eliminates what drains energy. It prioritizes what builds growth. You cannot build a powerful life with a distracted mind. And let me say this. Peace is a mental discipline. It's not the absence of problems. It's the refusal to let problems dominate your thoughts. You will face challenges. That's guaranteed. But you choose whether those challenges live rent-free in your mind or whether they pass through. Meditate, reflect, pray, journal. To train your thought like you train your body, just as muscles strengthen with repetition. Mental strength grows with practice. And understand something crucial. Your mind believes what you tell it repeatedly. If you constantly declare weakness, it accepts weakness. If you consistently declare resilience, it builds resilience. Speak strength over yourself. Because eventually the voice you hear most becomes the voice you obey. There will be moments when your mind tries to drag you back to old habits, old fears, old insecurities. That's normal. But mastery isn't about never having negative thoughts. It's about refusing to surrender to them. Never having negative thoughts. It's about refusing to surrender to them. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And once you understand that, you reclaim authority. Anything you want, success, peace, growth, impact requires mental alignment. It requires clarity. It requires discipline at the level of thinking. Win the battle in your mind, and the battles in your life become manageable. So start today. There. Audit your thoughts, trouble in your house. It is the protect your focus, strengthen your inner dialogue. You become intentional about what you allow to live in your head. Let me tell you something that will free you if you truly understand it. You do not need permission to become who you're meant to be. Too many people are standing still, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they're waiting for approval, waiting for validation, waiting for someone important to nod their head and say, you're ready now. Listen to me carefully. If you keep waiting for permission, you'll spend your whole life paused. The world does not gather around and announce your moment. There is no ceremony for your potential. There is no invitation card that arrives in the mail saying, it's your turn. Your turn begins the moment you decide to step forward without being called. Some of you have ideas sitting in your mind right now, visions, goals, dreams, and you keep shrinking them down because you're afraid of how people will react. You're afraid that they'll question you, laugh at you, doubt you. Let them. You cannot allow the fear of being misunderstood to keep you from moving. There will always be critics. There will always be skeptics. There will always be people who project their limitations onto your ambition. But their hesitation cannot become your handcuffs. If you know there's more in you, act on it. Stop waiting for someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Self-belief is not arrogance. It's responsibility. It's recognizing that you were given gifts for a reason and burying them because you're scared of judgment. That's the real failure. And you don't need applause to begin. You don't need a crowd to confirm your direction. Sometimes the path is lonely at first. Sometimes you walk alone before others understand the vision. That's part of the process. When you start something new, when you step outside your comfort zone, when you dare to do what you've never done, people will question you, not because it's impossible, but because it's unfamiliar. Growth feels risky, but nothing extraordinary has ever come from playing it safe. Stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what will happen if I don't try? Regret is heavier than rejection. At least if you try, you grow. You gain experience. Even if you fall short, you gain strength. But if you never start, you stay exactly where you are. That quiet frustration inside you, that feeling of knowing you're capable of more, that will only grow louder. You don't need everything figured out before you begin. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need guaranteed results. You need courage, and courage is built in motion, not in waiting. Start scared, start uncertain, start imperfect, but start big. It is to be, because clarity often comes after the first step, not before it. It's many people overthink themselves into paralysis. They analyze every possibility. They imagine every failure. They rehearse every worst case scenario. And in doing so, they talk themselves out of progress. None of that happens while you're sitting still waiting for a green light from someone else. Yeah. You are the green light. And understand this. No one will ever care about your dream as much as you do. That's not negativity. That's reality. It's your responsibility to carry it forward. Stop shrieking to fit rooms you've outgrown. Stop dimming your light so others feel comfortable. Stop negotiating with your potential. If the door doesn't open, knock harder. If it still doesn't open, build your own door. But don't stand outside forever asking for entry. Your growth requires boldness. Your growth requires boldness. There will be moments when you feel alone in your decision, moments when you question whether you're making the right move. That's normal. But comfort zones don't produce champions, they produce repetition. If you want a different result, you must take different action. And yes, you might fail. Yes, you might fail. Yes, you might fail. Face criticism. Yes, you might have to adjust along the way, but every step forward builds something. The inside you, that waiting never will, with momentum. Once you start, it becomes easier to continue. Once you prove to yourself that you can move without approval, you unlock a new level of freedom. Freedom from validation, freedom from comparison, the freedom from hesitation, and that freedom is powerful. So don't wait for the world to choose you. Choose yourself. Step forward even if your voice shakes. Take the opportunity, even if your confidence isn't perfect. Begin the project, even if it's not flawless. Now, let me paint a picture for you. Close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself 1 year from today. Not the same you, not the hesitant you, not the distracted you. I'm talking about the disciplined you, the focused you, the version of you that didn't quit when it got uncomfortable. See that person clearly. They walk differently. There's certainty in their step. There's calm in their presence. They don't rush to prove themselves anymore because the work has already done the talking. That transformation didn't happen overnight. It happened because you refused to stay the same. The becoming unrecognizable isn't about changing your personality. It's about evolving your standards. It's about raising the bar so high that your old habits can't reach it anymore. It's about looking back at who you used to be and barely relating to that mindset. Growth should make your past self uncomfortable. Same person you were 5 years ago in your thinking, in your discipline, in your courage, then you've been surviving, not evolving, but evolution requires intentional discomfort. It requires letting go of familiar patterns. It requires shedding excuses that once felt justified. And that process, it's not glamorous, it's gritty. But let me tell you something powerful. Reinvention is available to anyone willing to pay the price of consistency. You don't wake up transformed. You wake up committed. And that commitment, repeated daily, reshapes you piece by piece. At first, the changes are subtle. You respond differently to stress. You wake up earlier. You speak with more intention. You tolerate less negativity. You guard your time. You guard your energy. You guard your focus. And slowly, people start noticing. They'll say, "You've changed." Yes, that's the point. Change is not betrayal. It's growth. Some people will be uncomfortable with your evolution because it reminds them of their stagnation. But you cannot shrink to keep others comfortable. If your growth challenges someone else, that's not your responsibility to fix. You're responsible for maximizing your potential. Becoming unrecognizable means your old excuses no longer fit. It means your old excuses no longer fit. It means trouble in your house. It is procrastination feels foreign. It means quitting isn't even part of your vocabulary anymore. It means discipline becomes normal. It means pressure sharpens you instead of shaking you. It is the transformation must be internal before it becomes external. Muscles may grow, income may grow, influence may grow, but if your mindset doesn't grow, you'll sabotage it. That's why everything we've talked about matters. Decision, discipline, embracing pressure, silencing doubt, small steps, mastering your mind, acting without permission. All of it builds toward this, becoming someone you once admired from a distance. Imagine meeting the version of you from the future. What would they thank you for? For staying consistent, for pushing through that difficult season, for not quitting when it got lonely. The moment they ask you why you stopped, regret is quiet at first, it whispers. It shows up in moments when you realize you could have done more. But growth speaks loudly. And recall shows up in confidence, in peace, in strength earned through perseverance. You have the power to decide which voice gets louder. Becoming unrecognizable also means you stop chasing validation. You don't need approval anymore because your standards guide you. Both trouble in your house, it is the boast. You don't compare because you're focused on your lane. You don't panic under pressure because you've trained your mind. You become steady. And steadiness is powerful. 1 year of focused effort can shift the trajectory of your entire life. 5 years of relentless discipline can change your family's future. A decade of commitment can build a legacy. But it starts with today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today. Refuse to be the same person next year. Refuse to repeat the same mistakes. Refuse to repeat the same mistakes. Refuse to settle for comfortable mediocrity when greatness is available through effort. The world may not notice your daily grind, but you will. And one day, the results will make it undeniable. So when they say you've changed, smile, because you were supposed to. If you're ready to become unrecognizable in the best way possible, type new level and commit to that evolution right now.